The worst year for a lot of us for our mental as well as physical health. So joining us this morning is best-selling author, coach Lisa Goldenthal.
Hello and welcome. I'm Lisa G, your host. You're at the top of your game, yet the game is changing faster than ever. Strategies that got you here aren't the ones that'll keep you here. The pressure is relentless, and the fear of obsolescence looms large. That's why I'm here. Welcome to the new podcast series, Disrupted: How to Be Gritty and Unlock Performance in Business, Mindset, Wellness, and Success to help you master disruption.
Thanks for coming, and I'll see you soon.
He went from being the worst salesperson to the best. But after 25 years as a top salesperson, he was dreading Sundays, which made him realize he needed change. So he founded Mastery of B2B Sales to follow his dream, help B2B consultants reach their full potential, because he felt there's nothing more fulfilling than seeing clients achieve their aha moments and reach their goals. Welcome to the podcast, Chaz Horn.
Lisa, it's great to be here.
Oh my gosh, I'm so excited about
it. Me too.
I feel like everything is sales. So I want to talk to you first about some things on a more personal level, but I'm here to help our audience thrive in sales the way you do. So let's just start with yourself, and how have you faced challenges head on?
Yeah, so let me go deep. And I think you're going to know where I'm going with this.
Okay.
So, and I used to be real hesitant about sharing this, what I'm about to share,
Right.
because there was a lot of shame involved. But if this could help even one person out there, we're living in a crazy world these days.
Yes.
And we all deal with challenges. And a lot of times those challenges, we're just alone and we don't know what to say or how to communicate because we're in a place that it may seem like we're less than if we reach out to someone. So I went through a really difficult time in 2000 with my mom dying. I didn't realize how that would affect me. I lived most of my life with suppressing my feelings. And by the way, 24 years later, I've learned that if you suppress your feelings, they'll come back much uglier later on in life. If you don't process them, if you don't understand them, have emotional intelligence with your emotions and process them correctly. I didn't have that. I didn't have the skill set. I didn't know. I didn't understand. So my mom died. I had some problems in my marriage. We ended up getting a divorce. My dad died. All this happens like boom, boom, boom. I was in my job. I was doing extremely well, top sales in a year, 3 year, 7 year, 10-year period. But my whole identity was wrapped up in performance. If I was performing, hey, but if, this is not life. We don't always perform. We have failures. And so I was like going like this. So after my mom died, the divorce, my dad died, I got fired from my job. I could no longer suppress my feelings. And back to what I was saying, if you don't process your feelings, if you suppress them, they'll come back much uglier later on. So I went through a really dark period in my life. Not seeing my kids, reading to them because they were really young, just was like eating me because I used to read to them and tell them stories and whatnot at night. And I just went through a really dark period and I was in a lot of pain. And I didn't want to live anymore. It wasn't about getting attention or writing a note. I seriously got to a place one night. I was at home. I had purchased a gun. I bought hollow points, and because I didn't want to survive. Again, this is not attention. I'm not sharing this to get attention. I only like to share this story. So I put the gun in my head, and I just started putting my finger on the trigger, just harder and harder and harder each time.
Gosh.
Then all of a sudden, I can't remember how many times, but maybe like the fourth time, I kept doing it harder, not knowing when the gun would go off. All of a sudden, right before I put my finger on the trigger, it's like the third or fourth time, I heard a knock at the door. I'm like,
Wow.
who is this? So anyway, I got up, and if it wasn't for that knock in the door in 2004, I wouldn't be here today. So it was my brother who never came over. At that period of time in my life, no one wanted to be around me. I was not I didn't, no one wanted to be around me. And so he came in. Obviously, I'm here today, but if it wasn't for that knock in the door, I would not be here today. So to your question about my challenge, it wasn't like, hey, I turned around and like that. No, it was a long journey over many years with understanding myself, how to process my feelings, putting my faith and trust in Almighty God, and being transformed from inside and understanding how to process my thoughts and feelings, and have emotional intelligence. And again, I've learned so much. I'm more self-aware, but that was the biggest challenge I've ever gone through in my life. And today, 20 years later, I'm filled with a lot of joy. Yeah, I have struggles like anyone else, but being able to go through that and work through things to get to where I am today. Now, a lot of people say, Chaz, you have a lot of energy. You have a lot of joy. What's the source of your joy? I said, well, God, my hopes in God, and just focusing on what I'm grateful for. So this is what I'll cap off on this. And we go into the sales and business is I used to focus on all the things I didn't have and the things I have to do. Just
Yes.
by shifting that to realizing all that I get to do and all that I have, I started to have a lot more joy because it's a paradigm shift. My perspective changed, and I focused on what is called gratitude. And just by that simple shift, changed my perspective with everything else I just talked about. So that was definitely a very difficult challenge. And hopefully someone out there, if you're struggling, if you're challenged, reach out to somebody. We all have problems. And you might just find the person you reach out to had the similar problem, because God brings people into our lives in the times when we need them, kind of like my brother. So,
Right. Well, thank you, first of all, for going there and that vulnerable share, because I really do believe if one person is struggling and they hear your story of thriving and surviving after losing your mom, your dad, your marriage, and your business all in 1 year, and the divine intervention of your brother just knocking on the door. I'm so glad that you're here today because you are making a
too.
difference in people's lives. And let's jump from the struggles to the success, and how can you help all these B2B companies with your TTabs sales approach?
Yep. So, yeah, it's awesome. My daughter works for me today, by the way. And
Wonderful.
so,
Full circle.
yeah, and yeah, it's she works for me today. My son used to work for me today, or used to work for me.
Right.
So it's awesome to have her and have the conversation be around today. So awesome. Yes. So tabs, which is TTABS. So there's 5 things. If you're not predictably identifying and attracting new clients, I guarantee it's one of these 5 things. Not my hand, not my fingers. The
Right.
first T is tactic. That's what you do. The second T is technique. That's how you execute on the tactic. Very important. They need to be in alignment with one another. Because if you execute on a tactic but don't have the right technique, then you may sound like a salesperson. We can
Right.
go into more of that a little bit later. A is attitude. It's not just having an attitude that's a growth mindset over fixed mindset. Yes, that's important. Having the right perspective, the right attitude. But I look at it, and this is the foundation. If you go with the intention to serve and not sell, you will attract and not repel. People will always remember how you made them feel, but will least likely remember what you said. I think that's a
Right.
quote from Maya Angelou. I kind
Yeah.
of changed it around a little bit. And then B, that's the behaviors, that's the KPI, the number of tactics that you do. You should know if you do these number of tactics, you get these number of meetings and these number of clients. Okay.
Right.
And then S, strategy. This is where a lot of B2B businesses get it wrong. They don't have a marketing strategy. And the reason being, there's several reasons. They don't know their client, their avatar, their prospect, or if they know them, they don't know that main need and want. And if you don't know that main need and want of your target audience, how are you going to be able to speak to it with a marketing plan that gives confidence in their mind about you being able to solve their problem? So
Right.
when you have all of these flowing together in alignment with one another, then you're going to predictably identify, attract, convert, and onboard new clients. And if one of these is off, then you're not. It's usually one or more of these are off when people are struggling. The first thing I always look at is tactics. Can I give you a quick story?
Yeah, dive into tactics a little more with a story and explanation. I think if that's what you're seeing people struggle with, let's start there.
Yes. So, well, attitude is always the core of everything, but
Right.
the tactics, let me just give you an example. I was working with one company and they're doing a whole bunch of cold outreaches. And they were getting like 1 to 2.5 meetings, depending upon the skill set of the person who is reaching out. 100 cold calls a day, 1 to 2.5 meetings.
Right.
Not very good results. A lot of time, little results, and less than 50% of those meetings that were scheduled with those cold calls showed up.
Ooh.
So that's a tactic, cold outreach, and they were reaching out because they saw a ad and they would reach out to him and said, Lisa, this is Chaz with ABC Company. Already they've lost him because you sound like every other salesperson. Hey, we
Exactly.
saw your ad and we can help with this. Click. Or it just didn't go very well. Now, what I did with them is we changed from a cold outreach to a warm outreach. So they were talking with people who knew them. And this is before we had their whole marketing strategy in place. And so what I did is on LinkedIn, we had them create a LinkedIn poll that said, what's your biggest challenge with blank? Blank is the area of their expertise. And then they have 3 different answers. And so the people who responded with these different answers, now they had a demographic. Demographic is your target audience, geographic area, decision maker, role, industry, size of company. Okay. 3% or less in a demographic search, you can Google search the 3% rule, are ready to make buying decision. We want to move those demographic into psychographic, not psycho, but psychographic.
Yeah.
Those are people that are in the demographic, but they're interested in what you have to offer, and it's 35% more likely because by taking a poll and saying, hey, I have a problem with this. So that's one way to get them into a psychographic, and it's better defined and they're more likely to talk with you. So by doing this poll, now they had a list of people that were in their demographic and psychographic. Now they reached out and we crafted a better technique to get their attention with not just a call, a direct message, and an email, what I call the trifecta. The call would sound something like this. Lisa, I'm on your LinkedIn profile right now. This is Chaz Horn. Do you understand the pattern interrupt there? What? You're
Yeah.
on my LinkedIn
They're looking at
profile.
them. That's what
Yeah.
everyone wants, attention. That's better.
Yeah. So wait, it's a pattern interrupt. That's a technique in executing on the tactic. And they're like, who is this? Or what? Yeah, Chaz Horn. I'm connected with you on LinkedIn. You just took my poll on LinkedIn last week. You may not remember. Can I get your help with something? Again, this is all technique. Can I get your help with something? Right now, they've engaged past the 3 seconds, and that's the most important in a call. It's more of a warm call because you're connected with them. They've taken your poll, and you took my poll and you said, X, can I get your help with something? We created a newsletter to help businesses with this challenge. Would you be opposed to having a quick interview so I can get your insights, and it will help other people who read the newsletter? And if there's other ways I can help you, I'd be happy to do that in our call. So do you understand the difference? Would you respond differently to that than the other cold call?
Oh
The
yeah,
warm
I think
call?
you know how I feel about all those people that don't know how to build a relationship first, and they don't even want to kiss me first before they want to take me to bed. They're just too aggressive. So I feel like the spam bots and yeah, what's needed is your special approach, which is one of the reasons I was so excited to talk to you today. And also I love your approach on attitude because when you show up as you obviously do, you and I are connected on LinkedIn, and I've been following you for a long time. you show up with this attitude of service. How can I serve you
Boom.
even if I don't make the sale? And nobody wants that used car salesman where they have that desperation. Like nobody is attracted to that, I gotta make the sale kind of energy. So do you want to jump a little bit into the attitude of why people
Sure.
are attracted to you because you're actually serving them?
It's huge. If just by going with the intention to serve and not sell, you will attract and not repel. I repeat myself to be redundant on purpose. How many times have you, anyone listening, watching this, have you had a salesperson who truly seemed to care about you? It stands out. I'm just in my mind. I can't think of anyone right now. I'm sure there
Yeah,
are people,
I really
but
can't. 'Cause they get your attention with that, but that's obviously not their intention when you dig deeper.
right. So by someone who truly cares, it will change everything. So going with the intention to serve. And I talked about, my client, I didn't say before we had them get a newsletter in place where people were opting into. And so not only were they having the poll, to call, the newsletter, they had a way to reach out to people. And so the intention to serve, a great way to do this is we move them from there. They still had the newsletter in place into doing live events. It's another tactic, but how you put on the event and the intention makes all the difference in the world. And I know you've been to several of my events, and there's on LinkedIn, it's one of the best ways to promote yourself, the easiest way, I should say, because you can invite 1,000 people per week. So 2 weeks out, that's 2,000 people that you can invite. Now, 7 to 11% accept, and 25% of the people that accept attend. But even if they register and don't attend the event, you still have not the demographic, but the psychographic list of people who know you, who put their hand up because they wanted to attend their event. So in the event, the intention to serve is about speaking specifically to that need, that want. Now we're incorporating strategy. We have the technique, the tactic. We're going with the intention to serve by identifying the problem and solving it, giving a solution. And now with the strategy and all these things working together, you're starting, or they are starting to see you as someone who can solve their problem. And now you have a live event. There's nothing like a live event to connect with someone, not the content post, and content is very effective, but the best form of content is being live. And when you show up with the intention to serve, you connect on a much deeper level.
Wow. Well, thanks for also sharing that strategy of going live, but not just going live randomly, but creating an event and 2 weeks out, inviting 1,000 people a week. These are great strategies, but I want to take it back a little bit further with you of why did you start your business in the first place? Because I know that you were dreading Sundays. I know that you went from the worst to the best in sales and then you got fired. But what made you really want to launch your Tabs B2B success business here in sales?
Yeah, well, I started over at 51, and I allowed fear to control me much of my life. And I did well in sales, but it was always about helping other people achieve their dreams by working for others. And I did a bunch of different side hustles over the years. But finally, one day I was just thinking, then I can't remember exactly all the different events, but it was a culmination of all the events over the years in sales. I just didn't want to have that Sunday evening dread where I'm like, oh man. And this one job, the last company I worked with, um, we had a sales meeting first thing Monday morning, and it was supposed to be an hour. It never went less than an hour and a half. And sometimes it's like 2.5 hours. And it just sucked the life out of us.
Oh my
And I
gosh.
was like, man, I could do this so much better. And so I thought, I'm going to start my business. And so I just said, okay, now how am I going to do this? So I invested in someone, paid him, I can't remember, it's like a little bit over 10K to help me create my offer and whatnot. And then
Yeah.
within 30 days, I had my business in place and I was serving people based on my experience. And I had spent many hours on LinkedIn. And so I doubled down I had the sales in place, and then I created a LinkedIn program so people could use that as the marketing strategy to identify, attract, and then the sales process to convert and onboard new clients. So it was all about me pursuing my dream because of my why. At the core of my why, we didn't have the story, but you alluded to it. When I was the worst in sales, my boss, who became my mentor, Ken Upton, this is way back when, decades ago, he helped me believe in myself by saying, Chaz, you can be the top sales, followed by the top sales, but there was someone believing in me. You can be the top salesperson in the company, but you got to follow the system and process because it's proven. So I followed the system and process. And so now years later, Ken spoke life into me. And my why is to help other people see and realize their potential with my experience and my mindset shifts over the years so they could have the right mindset with the right tactic, the technique, the attitude, and the strategy. And they'll have the resilience to do the right behaviors and get results.
I love this story about how important it is that somebody believed in you when you had lost that all important self-belief, because we've all been through our own personal version of it somehow in the last 4 years. I feel like we're in this collective trauma that, there's always been trauma, and I'm certainly not immune to it all my life. But, it was escalated 4.5 years ago. Let's say we're having a pandemic, a lockdown, and now uncertainty in politics, and it goes on with the inflation, et cetera, et cetera. So my last question for you, basically to wrap this up, is your book. How can you help us be unstoppable in sales if everything is sales and you don't have a lifeblood of your business without sales and marketing?
Yes. So you alluded to my book. And if okay with you, if you put a link to the book, it's complimentary for a limited time. I wrote the book based on the culmination of all my challenges, what I learned, how I came through my challenges, and based on the hundreds of clients that I've worked with and the thousands, literally tens of thousands of people I've talked with over the years. And so the B2B blueprint, yes, I have tabs in there and I go into details, and it's a digital book. I have a video breakout sessions, so I make a point within the chapter, and then you can go to the video and dive deeper. And as long as you get the book, let me just say something, is books are great. And yes, I have a bunch of audibles on my phone, which I haven't gotten to yet, but I try to go to at least 2 to 3 to 4 books a month. But if you look at a book and you don't read it, not good. If you get a book and you read it, that's better. But if you get a book, you read it, and you execute on what you learn, that's what's best. So if you get the book, you read it and execute, listen to the videos and execute on what you learn, it will help you get started so you can have the tactics with the technique, the attitude, do the right behaviors, and with the strategy to grow your business.
Well, that's why we're here talking to you, Chaz Horn, and I know that we are connected on LinkedIn. Where can people find you? I know we have the book.
Yeah, best place is LinkedIn. Just Chaz Horn. You can put the link to my profile in the below. But yeah, that's where I'm on LinkedIn more often than anywhere else.
Me too.
So just connect and mention Lisa if you send a connection message. Many times I'm on these podcasts or I speak at events, and people just send a connection request. Let me know how I know you, because I don't connect with everyone who reaches out to connect with me. But if you put Lisa, then I'll know why you're reaching out, and I look forward to talking with you and connecting with you on LinkedIn.
Chaz Horn, thanks for being a great guest on the podcast.
It's awesome to be here, Lisa. Thank you so much. I know we talked about this for a long time. I'm glad we finally connected and did it. All right. Woohoo!
Perfect.